Okay, so in this video we are going to be looking at how to create a simple blogging application in AngularJS. So AngularJS, as you might know, that is a single page web application framework. So let's take a look at the demo of the application. So by the way, it is available at this URL. So we have a few posts, and when we click read more, we get the full version of the post, and we have a few pages, an about page and a contact page, and obviously they show when we click on them. Alright, so let's take a look at the JSON file. We're going to look, because we're not going to integrate any kind of RESTful API in it. We're going to be using static JSON files, but the difference would be, of course, that it is going to be a single page. It won't gonna go anywhere else, on any other page, but it's just going to display everything on this page by just clicking on the links. We go to separate routing URIs. Okay, so we're going to be using static JSON files. That's for posts, it is /data/posts.json, and for pages it's pages.json. They all have title and a content. Okay, so we're not going to be working with any kind of RESTful API in this project. So by the way, this source code is available at this URL, github.com/imfiles/angularblog. So you can click this download zip or clone it, whatever you want to do with this code. Alright, so let's get started building this thing. Alright, so here I am in my text editor. It's called Sublime Text, and in my CSS folder I have bootstrap.css file, and in JavaScript I have Angular, Angular route, bootstrap.js, and jQuery.js file. Alright, so let's start building this. I'm going to throw off a little document. Let's link the style sheet. So I'm going to link jQuery, Bootstrap, Angular, Angular route. So yeah, let's put this ng-app directive up here, and for testing purposes let's do yeah, no errors on the console, everything's working perfectly. So right now I'm going to create another folder here called app. This is going to act as a home for our application files like controllers and app.js and directives and things like that. So inside of app I'm going to create an app.js file. Let's create a new module for this. It's going to be called app, and as a dependency it will take ng-route. And remember, this ng-route will come from this angular-route.js. So you can see they're defining this module ng-route here, and we are pulling it in our app as a dependency. Alright, so let's do a little config. So we're going to inject the route provider. So now we can say .when slash template home dot otherwise Okay, so we're basically configuring our routes so that when we are at the root route, that is this slash, we're going to display this template called, it's just saying home. And if the user goes to somewhere else, not this home route, we're going to redirect them to the home route. So pretty basic stuff. And in here we're going to say equals app, and this app is the same as this app. So we're telling Angular that we need this application to act as this ng app directive. Okay, so let's build a container, and in here let's create a div and ng view, and inside of this view the Angular is going to display all of the templates. Alright, so let's see if you get any typos. Let's open up our console, refresh, and yeah, we didn't actually include this app.js file, so it's under app/app.js. Alright, let's refresh. Sure enough, we see this home. If we try to go somewhere else, it will redirect us to the home route. Alright, so next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a little templates, a little views directory, so that we can store our templates URL template files, because we're not going to include these templates right in these strings. We're actually going to use separate files for this. So let's create a new file called, let's create a new folder called views, and in here we're going to create a posts.html view. So posts here, something like this. So just for testing purposes, I have put this h1 here. And now I could say template URL, change this to views/post.html. Okay, so let's hit refresh. Yeah, great. So now we need to create controllers. So to do this, we're going to create a new file under app directory, and this would be called controllers.js. Okay, so let's define a new module. It's going to be called app.controllers, and let's define a new controller. We're going to call this post controller. Let's inject this scope here, and we can put scope.message, set it equals to hello, and then what I can do is in my view I can reference this. that message. Yeah. So now we're also going to inject these controllers. As a dependency of this app module. So you can say app.controllers. That's the name, yes. Let's hit refresh. Nope. We need to add this file app/controllers.js. Okay, so let's refresh. Nope. Let's see. Actually, we didn't. Alright, so we're going to say on the root route, I'm going to render this template and use the post controller as a controller. Okay, so now we see this hello message. Okay, great. So now what we need is some sort of data that we can work with. In a real live web application, you're going to use some sort of RESTful API, but for now I'm going to create a new folder here called data, and inside of this data we're going to create a new file, and this will be called posts.json. Okay, so this is going to be an array. We're going to have multiple objects in it. All the objects is going to have three properties. First one is title, my first post, and then the excerpt. This is just the short version of the title content, so we can show a preview of the post on when showing the lists of posts. So we could say some a little bit like this. And then for the content, I'm going to use 500 words of lorem ipsum. So yeah, let's fill out the other object as well. Let's start with now it's time for the third one. You can obviously add as many as you want. Okay, so we have added these. Hopefully we didn't make any mistake. Let's close this. Now I'm going to inject another service in my controller. This is called HTTP service. Okay, let's inject this, and we have access to get method. This is the Angular's Ajax agent, you can say. So you can send a GET request to data/posts.json, and what we can do is just say on success or on disclosure. Disclosure is going to have the data. So we're going to set scope.posts, and we're going to set that equals to our data. Hopefully we didn't make any mistake. So now in our template we can say let's say an article tag, and in each one, so for example we can say post name then a little read more link with a right arrow. Let's see. Okay, so great, we are going to repeat all of the posts here. So I can put an ng repeat directive. We can say post in posts. Inside of the h2 we're going to say post.title. Oops. Post.excerpt. So yeah, and this is going to be inside of a link. Okay, so let's refresh, and hopefully, yeah. So now we are seeing all of the posts that we defined in posts.json. Great. So now we want the similar functionality with pages. Let's create a new file called pages.json under this data directory. Now this is going to have an array of objects. Let's create just 2. And they'll only have 2 properties. One would be an about page. Its content is going to be something like maybe 700 words. About a contact page. So now we need some sort of navigation bar at the top of it, so we can navigate through our pages. So we are going to create a directive for this. So on top of our view, I'm going to create a directive called navigation bar. Okay, so this is, don't freak out, it's not a tag, it's not a standard HTML tag, it's not. Instead, what we are going to do is we're going to register a new directive for this, and these tags are going to render our navigation, our bootstrap navigation bar that you saw on the demo right here. So we're going to create this navigation bar right now. So to do this, we're going to go to our apps directory, and I'm going to create a new file called directives.js. And before I forget, I'm going to include this in our index.html file, directives.js. Alright. Angular module, app.directives. This isn't gonna have any dependency or something like that. Directives. Yes, and this would be named this navigation bar. Okay, so now you're going to say this is an element. So remember, we're using it as an element, not as an attribute. If we say attribute here, then we're going to use it just like this directive we used, or any other directive like angapp, and then we would have to actually add an attribute instead of an element to render our directive. But instead we're going to use element template URLs. Now we can specify a template. Let's first say some sort of template. Let's say navigation, just so that we can test our template. So we're also going to inject this thing in our controller. Directives, and remember, this directive needs to be injected in the model instead of our app. This directive needs to be inserted in our controllers instead of the application. This module, we're now going to include directives. Oops. So yes, it's rendering awesomely. Now we're going to define a URL instead of the template. This would be, so you can either put it inside of your views directory if you want to, but I'm going to create a new folder for it, and I'm going to call this partials. Inside of here I'm going to create a new file called navigationbar.html, and in here we're going to put some standard bootstrap navigation bar. So nav class is equals to, I don't know, maybe navbar dash default, and then an anchor we called class equals navbar dash brand. You could say my blog here. Let's just test this one out. So yes, let's hit refresh. We're going to say partials slash navigation bar.html. So yes, we're saying this. So let's add a little bit padding to the body. I'm not linking any style sheet for this little thing. You could if you want to. I'm going to add a 10 pixel padding on top, so we get this little breathing room on top of our navigation bar. So now we need some links in here. So it's maybe class equals to nav bar. I actually forgot. Let's see. Nope. So let's go to getbootstrap.com, components, navbar. Here it is. So I want a pretty basic navigation bar. It's navbar dash nav. Okay, let's hit refresh. Now it's great. Alright, so now we can actually link this something like this: about, home, and contact. But we don't want this. We don't want ourselves to write these links. We want these links to be dynamic according to this data that we have in our pages.json. So this is what we're going to do, is we're going to go ahead in our directives. Inside here we have this controller, uncomment this. Let's say the scope here, scope dot message equals hello. Okay, so let's just say message. Okay, so we're getting an error. Yes, definitely this is a huge error. This controller is going to have an array, and then we're going to define a function. Now we can put the dependencies right like this. Scope.message, we could say hello. Let's hit refresh, and yeah, sure enough, we're getting this. Now what we need is basically this pages.json. So we need to pull in our Ajax service, that is the HTTP service. I'm going to inject it. We're going to send a GET request to data slash pages.json, and then success, we're going to run a function that is going to have the data, and then so now we could say scope.pages is equals to data. Alright, if we go to the nav bar, so this is, we're going to repeat these this unordered list. So we could put ng repeat here. We could say page and pages. Page.title. Let's see. Yes. We could say my blog here. So now I have this dynamically created unordered list that is rendering into Bootstrap's navigation bar. Pretty cool, huh? Now it's time to add these links because they don't work not right now. So if I go to my, let's go to our app.js and register a new route. .when going to be views / single post.html. Oops, what the template URL is going to be in views single post.html. The controller is going to be single post controller. let's create this view really quickly. Single post.html, and let's create a new controller here, so we can just chain in another controller. This would be called single post controller. And so now if someone goes to this URL /post/ any ID, anything, that is going to get this template URL. Just say single post, and it's going to use this controller, single post controller, that we define just right here. Okay, so let's pull in the scope. Could say scope dot message equals hello, and in our single post I could say so if I go to post/1, there you go, 2, 3 or whatever. Alright, so now we are here, and we're going to create this single post pages. So right in our controller, what we can do is we can inject our Ajax agent, http://get request to data /post.html, sorry, post.json, and on its success, a function is going to contain the data, and in here we could say scope.post is going to be equals to datas, and to pull in this ID we need another service, and that is called the route params, and we can pull it in params.id. So this is the object, and this .id means this ID. So let's see if that works. So inside of this single post, I'm gonna say h1 post.title, inside a paragraph post.content. Great. So now if we go to post whatever index number of that array, we're going to get the posts. My first post. Actually, I think I named all my posts my first post, so let's fix this. Let's call this my second post. Let's call this my third post. Great. But these links aren't working yet, so we need to fix this. So we're gonna go to the post.html, and in here we could say go to /post/ the post dot index of the post. So whatever the index of current post is, it's going to put it here. It's going to go to slash post slash whatever the post index is. So let's see it in action. Let's refresh. Yeah, now it's working pretty well. So now it's time to create this individual about and contact pages. Let's close everything out. Alright, so first of all, we need to create a new route for this. .when slash page slash id. We need to go to template URL views slash page.html, and we're going to use controller called page controller. Really quickly, let's create a new file called page.html. Here, let's say page title, and let's say lorem ipsum. We're going to use this and then create a new controller. Say controller, yes, page controller. Let's inject the scope first of all. Let's say, okay, so let's pull in, let's just check out slash page slash one. No, page slash one hash page slash one. Yes, great. Now inside our controller we can inject our HTTP. And actually I'm going to copy this from the single post controller. And so let's just say http.get data slash pages.json dot success. Let's run a function that has the data, and we could say scope dot page is equals to data, the route params.id. Alright, so let's hit refresh, and in our page.html we could put page.title, page.content. Okay, so now we're getting it. So now we need these links to work. We can just go to simple partials, navigation bar, and in here we could say it should go to /page slash pages dot index of the current page. Let's hit refresh. About contact my blog. So I think we're finished. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's just see. I think that is pretty much it. Yeah. Alright, so that's it, and I guess thank you for watching.